Hi, folks. I just finished off watching something that I started watching yesterday, which was at what's it called? Vice News Tonight, the episode of the 8th for the 6th. Yeah. Anyway, first of all, it's 1:30 p.m. on the 11th for the 6th, 2020. Yeah. And what I was watching is typical of where the problem is, and it is quite a severe problem. But it's typical of where the problem is. This lady has two daughters. They live in Charlottesville in America, and there's two schools that their daughters go to. The older one goes to the Charlotte School, West Charlotte School, which is really poor. It doesn't have the programs that she needs to progress as the way she wants to progress, whereas the other daughter goes to a school in the more affluent area. So the mother's now talking to the reporter, and I'm going to play this a little bit so you can understand the point. It's a very, 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 very interesting point indeed. So I'll play this bit and then we'll continue after that, okay?
Just going to these classes and just sitting there for periods of time.
The youngest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
How old is she?
8.
Is it your desire that she maintains this trajectory?
That's tough because I also want her to be with people who look like her, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's your problem. Question that came into my mind as soon as I heard that: if that was a white person saying that, that'd be racist, right? If that's a pinky skinned person saying, "Yeah, I want my child to go to a school with just children that look like them," that'd be racist, yeah. This woman was asked a question about: does she want her younger daughter to continue along a trajectory that's going to take her to better schools, better schools, better schools? What does the mother focus on? Colour of skin. Not her daughter's education, but the colour of her daughter's skin. And the fact that her daughter should be around people who look like her. Now, you can't therefore blame pinky skinned people for thinking the same way, can you? Because in the end, everyone is racist when it comes down to it. That's the reality of the situation. I mean, everyone is in every human being, but every skin tone is racist against the others. It's nature, it's in you. You want your children to be around people like you, I would guess. I don't care. I have a son that I've not seen, and I personally don't have an issue with him having friends who have a better tan than him. You know, couldn't care less. If their attitude is positive and if they're a good influence on his life, I couldn't care less. If they're a bad influence on his life, then I don't care what skin colour they have. I wouldn't want them anywhere near him. But I wouldn't blame the skin colour for it. Not totally. I would, however, say, well, okay. As a brown skinned person, they've been brought up believing that this is the attitude they should have. But I think it's more to the point as a relatively poor person from a poor background, they've been brought up to believe that this is who they should be. It's more to do with poverty, not to do with colour of skin. You can take the leap, it's the colour of the skin, but it's not. It's like the situation with this woman talking about a younger daughter. As I say, it's natural when it comes down to it. And because what you want the best for your kids. But now the mother is basically saying, oh, yeah, a 16-year-old daughter is at a school that really isn't going to function very well. And the daughter herself has said, most people that go to that school are going to end up being arrested and going to prison. Because the expectation of that school, the level there, is incredibly poor. Incredibly poor. So, the mother's asked, younger daughter is at a school where the expectation is really high that you do incredibly well. So, the mother's asked, would you want your younger daughter to continue along that line of being fortunate enough to be in those better schools? Her answer is she doesn't know. Because she wants her daughter to be around people who look like her. So maybe her daughter, basically what she was saying, maybe her daughter would be better off in the West Charlotte school, which is 80% people who are brown, even though it's a failing school. So when you have people that think that way, then you see, okay, that may have some part of the explanation as to why areas are failing. Not because people don't have the opportunities, because some do. Not all do, absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the case. They started off that piece saying that there was a lottery basically as to whether their daughters would go to the good school or the bad school. Yeah, younger one got the good school, the older one didn't. She didn't win. So it may be 20% of the people that apply for the good school actually get it, who are people of colour. People who are brown skinned. Which is not great. Let's be honest, that's not a great percentage in any way, shape, or form. But reverse what that woman said and think about it from the point of view, if the people in the other school, in the better school, were thinking exactly the same way, but they had pinky colour skin, that may explain why they only allow 20% of the pupils to be brown. So as I say, you get this racism all over, and this positive racism, which is still racism. So you can't force the good school to take in more people than that 20%. Because it is unfair to say to the pinky skinned people, you shouldn't be thinking that way, but the brown people can. Do you know what that's called? Racism. It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I was thinking about it, about why I talk about these issues. And because if I had a massive platform, as if I had 2 million subscribers and I had 1 million views for every video, then I would be in a position where I could possibly influence the discussion. However, I think you find that most people with that level wouldn't dare do so. They wouldn't. Now, I can't say whether I would or wouldn't because I'm not in that position. I would hope I would, but I can't say for certain that I would, because once you get to that level, you can be afraid of losing it. Yeah, because that is a livelihood. Well, it has been for some people. That's been a livelihood for some people. They've done incredibly well. So it's like, yeah. Oh, it's as I say, a tricky thing. So I suppose for me, I'm just trying to understand the problem, but understand the problem from a fuller point of view rather than just, oh, it's racism. I say that there are. Is it racist for this woman? The clip I played. Is it racist for that woman to say what she said? No, not really. It's not. It's her loving her daughter and her saying she thinks her daughter will do better if she can learn from people who look like her. Now, ideally speaking, she'd rather her daughter was in a school that was doing fantastically well, surrounded by people that had the same skin colour as her. And the problem is, that's what both sides would think. Now, when you've got that situation, you've got a situation that's not really racist. Not really. But it looks like it. Yeah, for example, if you are, like in Charlottesville, they're talking specifically about this town where there was a killing of a brown man a number of years ago that led a number of people to get involved in politics in the area, and their local politicians are pretty much, I'd say, 80% brown. I think out of 10, well, 12, they've got about 9 who are brown. So they're being represented by their people in the area. If there is such a thing as their people, because there really isn't. That's the way they see it. So okay. So yeah, you've got on the map in the area, you've got a little wedge where it's wealthy, and you've got a crescent that's counted as the poor people. Now, obviously, the less wealthy people want to expand the wedge into their area. But if you're in the wedge, what are you thinking? You don't want that crescent being expanded into your area. You spent a lot of money on these houses, right? A lot of money. You've invested a great deal because that's an affluent area. The schools are good, etc., etc., etc. There's less crime in that area. So do you want the crescent moving into your area? No. Of course you don't. That's not because you're racist. It's because you've got a lot of money invested. Yeah? It's like I've made videos about, if you own a property or you rent a property. When you own a property, you're more likely to take care of the area than when you rent. So in that crescent area are the majority of those people who live there home owners or home renters. Again, I don't know. I've never been to the area. I've never actually done a survey, but there's certainly a lot of foreclosed homes according to the photos in the crescent area. So you can understand it from both points. That's what I'm saying. You've got to be able to see it from both points. So trying to understand it's not so simple. Because if you say, right, in order to even it up, we're going to smash down the barriers so that there's no wedge anymore. We're now including the crescent in that. Okay, we're going to make that area affluent. We're going to basically give these houses to these brown people here. One thing that's going to do, you could do that. You could build beautiful houses and you could give them to the residents. So each person has their own lovely house, right? If you're a home owner in the area you were going to be incredibly pissed at that going on because you had to pay for your house. Also, the value of your home is going to go down. The reason why is quite simple. When there's only 200 affluent houses in the area, the value of those properties stays high. You suddenly add another 300 affluent houses in the area. The value of those 200 houses now comes down. And so those people will then have the value of their homes going down because another 300, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 houses have been built in the poorer area and given to the residents there. So to benefit one, you have to take away from another, right? So is it fair to therefore say, well, because the pinky people have had all the benefits in the past, we just give benefits now to the brown people at the expense of the pinky people? No. That isn't fair, no. Because those said pinky people were not the ones who were having the benefits 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. They weren't alive. Don't try and punish them for what their ancestors did. That's not right. You can't solve a problem of prejudice by being positively prejudiced. You just shift the problem. You just shift the anger. That's what you're doing is. Now, that's been going on, and it hasn't been too bad because they've not shifted too much. And so the anger of the pinky people hasn't got that bad compared to the anger of the brown people. Because they haven't done enough. They haven't shifted enough to placate the brown people and to really anger the pinky people. So, what the answers are, I don't know. It's difficult, really difficult. Because there you go. That lady herself said at the beginning of this video, she would rather her daughter was around people who looked like her, even if the school was not good. Now, obviously, one thing is we need to get the schools better. We need to have much, much better schools. Of course we do, yeah. There's no doubt about that. People in schools, I don't care what colour skin you are, there are areas of America where you have poor, incredibly poor, pink-skinned people who go to incredibly poor schools. So it's not skin colour that determines whether your school is good or bad. It's wealth. The affluent area of Charlottesville has the better school. The poorer area doesn't. It's got nothing to do with colour of skin. The amount of money spent on the school doesn't have the facilities because it doesn't have the money. That's to do with affluence. It's not to do with colour of skin. So trying to answer that by anything other than dealing with the poverty is not going to work. I'd say it's not easy, not in any way, shape or form. It's not a difficult thing for everyone, I suppose. But most people who are alive are decent, fairly decent human beings. They don't believe in being racist against people or stopping people from having opportunities. They don't believe it's right for police officers to kill people because of the colour of their skin. I mean, there was some idiot on Twitter, or it was on a Twitter video. I'm not sure if they did the video on Twitter or not, I don't know. But there was a video on Twitter where the person was claiming that police are hunting down and killing black people. Basically accusing the police of being KKK. Walking around with torches hunting black people to kill. Well, firstly, it's not that. And if it was anything like that, most people with pinky skin would rise up and stop that from happening. Because they would. Like they are now. Most people have spoken against it. They don't agree that sort of behaviour by the authorities is suitable or is okay. It's like at the moment you have all these black sports stars or brown sports stars coming out talking about racism and the racism that they've suffered, etc. And most of it isn't racism. I said the other day you've got something called perceived racism. And when you believe that everyone is racist against you because of the colour of your skin, like as I say, they were talking about there are not enough black managers. Again, is that racism or is that perceived racism? It's perceived. It's not racist. It's not a racist issue. As far as I know, I don't believe, certainly in the English leagues, that there is a black manager in the English league who is a fantastic manager and yet has never been given a chance to manage at a decent level. There were people moaning years ago that there weren't enough English managers in the top flight. Again, there wasn't enough English managers who were doing a good job, who deserved to be given a chance. So you've got to understand, do you want the best people or do you just want people based upon skin colour or nationality? If you do, then your league is going to suffer. It's going to struggle like Italy. The Italian league, football league, is poor, really poor. It's been poor for a number of years. Very, very weak as a league. You've only got one team in it, really, Juventus now. And they win the league every flipping year now. Because all the others are, any player who's now, in their 40s, the Italians want that, especially if they're Italian, they keep their players. The Italian players generally don't like going abroad. So they stay in Italy, but they stay in Italy until they're retired. And you've got clubs in Italy that have got so many players that are so close to retirement. They're not looking to get the best, they're looking to get national. And that means you're going to struggle. You're not going to be winning the Champions League. You're not going to be really fighting at a high level. And your international team is going to suffer as a result. And that is the reality of the situation there. So there you go. Tis what. Yeah. But there you go. That's raised a few more questions. Problem is, at the moment, I can see myself raising more questions. I can't, at the moment, see myself providing any answers. It doesn't mean answers won't come. It just means I can't see that right now. Because all I have is questions. And when I watch things like the thing I was watching earlier, it just provides more questions, Let's say you've got to think about it from the position of fairness. Look at the reality of what is actually going on, rather than what people are screaming is going on. It's all just racism. Because most of it isn't that. Really isn't that at all. It's completely understandable. It's like you have Chinatown, and a lot of countries have got their own Chinatown. And it's because of the fact that the people who have come from China want to stay together because they identify with each other. So they have a sort of close-knit community because of that. Now, someone of a skin tone isn't the same. But the problem is that there's been a race war that's been held by both sides. And the problem is there's been a thuggish police that's been stirring the pot. Because that's what it is. These thuggish police aren't necessarily racist. They're just thuggish. Yeah, the person who was killed in Charlottesville years ago, they actually showed the incident. Police turned up at the man's property. He got out of his car and just walked around. As he turned around to look at the police officer, bang, 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 dead. And I think the man's wife or mother was shouting to him, "Don't do it. Don't get out of the car. Stop walking around." Because she knew what was going to happen. It was as if the man was in a haze or something. Now, of course, what should the police do? They have tasers. They could easily taser the man. Even if he's got a gun, if you taser the man, he's not going to be exactly in control and shoot it. And no gun was seen, so therefore, if you don't see a gun, you have to probably assume he hasn't got one. Until you see one, assume he hasn't got one. To be ready with your taser, to have your guns out straight away? Come on. Yeah, that sort of mentality by the police is crazy. To have your guns out straight away when, realistically speaking, this person hasn't got a gun, so why are you ready to kill? Is it race? Don't know. And you have to say, unfortunately speaking, it's a case where a lot of the examples given recently have been big brown men. Very big. I mean, the bloke who was suffocated by the stranglehold was a massive fella. He was a huge fellow compared to the police officers. Now, guarantee you one thing. If there was a huge pinky skin man, the police would probably have dealt with him in exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. Because if you've got 4 or 5 little police officers against this massive man, irrelevant of colour, they're going to have to try and get that person on the floor. So a chokehold is something that they would normally try to do to, control the person, to stop the person from being able to hurt them. Now, is that right? No, of course not. No. But it is what it is. These are the things that happen. Oh, well, there you go. There you go. It's what it is. I say it's difficult. It's difficult. I'm going to say we don't have the numbers. I don't live in America. I don't believe I could access easily the evidence of police shootings against white, pink men, women. For example, this no-knock situation where they can just burst into a home without, knocking and making people aware that they're police. Come in with guns already cocked, ready to shoot the heck out of the place. They've done that against pinky skinned people as well, obviously. And there's plenty of poor neighborhoods amongst pinky people where drugs is an issue and where there are drug dealers. Now, with that being the case, the police would have used the same tactics, and there would have been lots of white people killed as a result, using the same things. But as I say, the problem is the media is not interested in those stories. That is a problem. And so, if the media was interested in those stories, we would have a more accurate picture. of, the disparity between the two. At the moment, we don't. But I don't believe it's a case where police particularly target people with brown skin in those things. I think police are very cavalier and they have this Rambo mentality. Some of them. And with that being the case, they just want to burst into properties and shoot the crap out of anything they see, irrespective of the colour of skin. As I say, it's thug police. And as you've got thug police, you've got this situation where you've got Black Lives Matter, and you've got then the pinky people saying, yeah, your lives matter, but so do ours. But then you've got the police in stirring up the pot all the time. It ain't good. Not good at all. I mean, what do the people want? Generally speaking, as I say, getting the police sorted out is going to be difficult, to say the least. So another option would be to have more white men killed by police. Even it up a bit. Won't it be better? If you keep on talking about black, that it's black men, police are killing black men, another black man, you want a few white people thrown into the mix? Because you keep on making an issue of the colour of the skin of the person. What about forgetting the colour of the skin of the person? Just talking about the police are killing men unlawfully. That's the key. That's what matters. It doesn't matter about the colour of the skin. As soon as you start making an issue of that, then you're really saying, if there were 10 or 20 white people that were abused to the point of death by police, then it wouldn't feel so bad. But it's because we see another black person it's happened to, and we don't really see it happen to white people. Then have a go at the media. Why aren't they showing those videos? Why aren't they showing those clips? There you go. Well, that'll do for now. As I say, there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of things there to make you think and to make you look at things from a different point of view, I suppose. But that'll do for now. There's not really anything I can add to that. I think I've stretched that as far as I'm going. I was never intending to stretch it, not in any way, shape, or form. But you go on, and other things can come up, so it got stretched a bit. So there you go. You take care. God bless, and I will speak to you soon. Bye bye.